Part 3. The Starlight Reckoning Segment 5. The Vault Ignites. The 5,000-square-foot vault beneath Alaska's frozen wilderness vibrated with the Starlight engine's radiant hum, its 100,000-watt glow casting jagged shadows across the concrete walls. The air hung heavy at 15 degrees Fahrenheit, thick with frost and the metallic tang of old machinery. But the tension crackling between the two sides burned hotter than any fire. It was 3:20 p.m. on Tuesday, October 6, 2025, less than 9 hours until the coalition's midnight deadline, and the standoff in the bunker had reached a razor's edge. Dr. Leonard Voss, the 90-year-old physicist turned betrayer, stood with his polished ebony cane pointed at Jolie, his blue eyes glinting with a predator's hunger. Victor Grayson flanked him, pistol steady, while 6 coalition operatives fanned out, their rifles trained on Elon Musk, May Musk, Clara, Evelyn Carter, and Jolie, the unlikely guardians of Joshua Haldeman's 54-year-old dream. Voss's voice cut through the engine's song, smooth and venomous. "Speak, old woman," he repeated, his cane inches from Jolie's chest. "Or I start with the girl." His gaze slid to Clara, who stood clutching the Starlight engine core's case, her injured arm trembling in its sling, her hazel eyes wide with defiance and fear. The threat hung like a guillotine, and the vault's silence shattered as the stakes crystallized. Jolie's code, the final lock on the engine's true power, was the key Voss craved. Jolie's 85-year-old hands tightened on her cane, her frail frame dwarfed by the engine's light but unyielding in its glow. Her dark eyes, framed by silver curls, met Voss's without flinching, her Spanish accent sharpening her words. "You want his heart?" she said, her voice rising like a storm over the hum. "You'll have to rip it out of me." The stories surged within her. Pretoria nights, lullabies of fallen stars, Joshua's trust, and she felt their weight. A shield forged from a $25,000 life now facing $1 trillion theft. The engine pulsed, as if echoing her resolve, its light flaring brighter, bathing her in a halo that dared Voss to strike. Elon stepped forward, his wrench raised like a warrior's blade, his sharp gray eyes locked on Victor. "You touch her, or any of them, and you're done," he growled, his voice a low thunder. His $200 billion empire meant nothing here. This was personal, a fight for his father's soul. He glanced at the engine, its steel and crystal form a towering testament to Joshua's vision, then back at Voss. "You betrayed him once. You don't get a second shot," Victor sneered, his pistol shifting to Elon. "Big words, Musk, but you're outgunned. Hand over the core or we paint this place red." His dark eyes flicked to his operatives, their rifles glinting in the starlight, a chorus of death waiting for his command. May clutched Evelyn's arm, her green eyes blazing through tears as she faced Voss. "You killed him," she spat, her voice raw with 54 years of grief. "Joshua died because of you, and now you think you can steal what he built? Over my dead body." Her journals lay scattered on the floor, pages of love and sacrifice fluttering in the draft from the open trapdoor above. Evelyn, frail but fierce at 78, straightened beside her, her white hair wild in the engine's glow. "You'll get nothing, Leonard," she rasped, her steel rod gripped like a spear. "I hid it from you for decades. I'll die before you take it." Her ember-like eyes burned with the scientist's fire that had kept her alive in this frozen tomb. Voss's smile thinned, his patience fraying. "Noble," he said, his cane tapping the concrete, "but futile. The engine's mine, trillions in limitless energy, a new world order. Joshua was a fool to hide it, and you're fools to fight for it." He nodded at Victor. "Take the girl, now." Victor lunged, his pistol swinging toward Clara, but Elon moved faster, his wrench arcing through the air, slamming into Victor's wrist with a sickening crunch. The gun clattered to the floor, skidding across the concrete, and Victor howled, clutching his hand as he staggered back. "You bastard!" he snarled, but the vault erupted before he could recover. The operatives opened fire, a staccato of muzzle flashes lighting the gloom. Bullets ricocheted off the engine's steel frame, sparks flying as Elon dove for cover behind a shelf, dragging Clara with him. She yelped, the core's case slipping from her grip and hitting the floor with a thud, its light pulsing wildly. May and Evelyn ducked behind the engine, its bulk a shield as rounds pinged against it, while Jolie stood frozen, her cane rooted to the ground, the chaos swirling around her like a nightmare. "Jolie, down!" Elon shouted, his voice piercing the din as he yanked the $200 wrench from his belt again, hurling it at an operative closing in. The tool struck the man's helmet, sending him sprawling, but another took his place, rifle raised. Clara scrambled for the core, her good hand clawing at the case as bullets whizzed overhead, one grazing her coat and tearing a gash in the fabric. Above, the trapdoor rattled as a new sound roared in. A truck engine, its growl muffled by the 20-mile blizzard raging outside. Headlights stabbed through the shaft, illuminating the ladder, and a figure emerged. Pete Grayson, Victor's 70-year-old grandfather, his mechanic's hands gripping a shotgun. "Hold him up, Bucket, Opal," he barked, his voice rough with 50 years of grit, and he fired a blast into the vault, the pellets scattering across the ceiling and forcing the group to duck lower. "Pete," Evelyn cried, her voice breaking as she peeked from behind the engine. "You're with them?" The betrayal cut deeper than the cold. A wound from 1971 reopened. Pete, Joshua's old mechanic, now a soldier for the enemy. "Always was," Pete grunted, racking another shell. "Joshua cut me out. Voss promised me a piece." He aimed at the engine, his shotgun steady, but his eyes flickered. Regret, maybe, buried under decades of resentment. Jolie's heart pounded, her breath shallow as the gunfire paused, the operatives circling like wolves. She saw Clara pinned behind a crate, the core inches from her grasp. Elon bleeding from a graze on his arm, wrenchless but unbowed. May and Evelyn huddled together, their faces etched with defiance. And Voss, calm, untouchable, his cane a scepter as he watched the chaos unfold. The engine's hum surged, its light bathing her, and she knew this was the moment. The stories, the code, the starlight. It was hers to wield. She stepped forward, her cane tapping defiantly, her voice cutting through the silence. "La estrella que cayó," she said loud and clear, her Spanish curling around the words like a prayer. "Stars guide home." The engine responded, its keypad flaring, and a deep rumble shook the vault. A 1 million watt pulse erupting from its core, a shockwave of light and sound that slammed into the operatives. Rifles sparked and died, their electronics fried, and the men stumbled, clutching their ears as the blast knocked them back. Victor lunged for his pistol, but Elon tackled him, pinning him to the concrete, fists flying. "Stay down!" Elon roared, his knuckles splitting against Victor's jaw. Pete fired again, the shotgun's blast grazing the engine, but Evelyn charged, her steel rod swinging with a scientist's precision, striking his knee. He crumpled, cursing, the gun skidding away. Voss alone stood unscathed, his cane planted, his eyes wide with fury and awe. "You unlocked it," he breathed, stepping toward the engine as its light stabilized, a steady glow now radiating power beyond imagination. The full code, limitless energy, mine at last. He reached for the core, but Jolie moved, her cane swinging up, striking his wrist with a crack that echoed through the vault. "Not yours," she said, her voice a tremor of strength. "Never yours." The blow staggered him, his cane clattering to the floor, and he clutched his arm, his face twisting in pain and rage. Clara seized the moment, grabbing the core and scrambling to the engine, slamming it into the open panel. The two halves fused, a seamless union, and the engine's hum deepened, its light piercing the vault's gloom. The operatives groaned, disoriented, while Victor lay dazed under Elon's weight, and Pete slumped against the wall, his fight drained. But Voss wasn't finished. He lunged with a snarl, his good hand clawing for the core, and Clara screamed as he shoved her aside, her injured arm slamming into the concrete. "It's mine!" he roared, fingers brushing the crystal, until May tackled him, her 77-year-old frame fueled by a widow's fury. They hit the floor, Voss's breath wheezing as she pinned him, her hands clawing at his coat. "Joshua's!" May cried, tears streaming as she held him down. "Not yours, never yours." Evelyn joined her, her rod pressing against Voss's chest, and together they restrained him, a mother and a partner avenging 54 years of loss. Elon rose, blood dripping from his arm, and pulled Clara to her feet, her coat torn but her eyes fierce. "Tia!" she gasped, rushing to Jolie, who leaned on her cane, breathless but unbroken. The engine's light bathed them, a beacon of victory, but the cost was clear. Clara's limp, Elon's wound, the vault's scars. Voss thrashed, his voice a ragged hiss. "You can't stop it! The sky's not yours yet!" He yanked a fragment from his coat, a shard of the engine, torn free in the chaos, its edges glowing faintly. With a final surge, he broke free, scrambling up the ladder as the blizzard swallowed his retreat. The fragment clutched like a lifeline. The vault fell silent, the engine's hum softening, its power secured. For now. 8 hours to midnight, and the battle was won. But Voss's escape left a shadow. The operatives lay defeated, Pete and Victor subdued, yet the fragment's glow lingered in their minds. A piece of the starlight still out there, in the hands of a traitor. Jolie sank to her knees, her cane clattering, and Clara caught her, their breaths fogging together. "We did it," Jolie whispered, her voice trembling with exhaustion and pride. "We held the stars." Elon knelt beside them, his hand on the engine, its warmth a promise. "For him," he said, his voice thick. "For all of us." May and Evelyn joined them, a circle of survivors, their victory bittersweet as the blizzard howled above, and the question burned. What power did Voss's fragment hold, and what would he do with it? Part 3. The Starlight Reckoning Segment 6. The Burden of the Light. The 5,000-square-foot vault beneath Alaska's frozen wilderness lay still, its concrete walls scarred with bullet holes and scorch marks, the air thick with the acrid tang of gunpowder and frost. The Starlight engine stood at the center, its steel and crystal form glowing with a steady, radiant hum, the core now fused seamlessly into its heart. A $50,000 dream from 1971 that had just unleashed a 1 million-watt pulse to secure its freedom. The temperature held at a biting 15 degrees Fahrenheit, but the cold felt distant, overshadowed by the warmth of victory and the weight of what it had cost. It was 3:45 p.m. on Tuesday, October 26, 2025, just over 8 hours until the coalition's midnight deadline, a deadline rendered moot by their triumph, yet darkened by Dr. Leonard Voss's escape with a glowing fragment of the engine clutched in his grasp. Elon Musk knelt beside the engine, his bloodied hand resting on its warm surface, his sharp gray eyes tracing the veins of light that pulsed beneath the crystal. The graze on his arm oozed red, staining his sleeve, but he barely noticed. His $200 billion mind was locked on the machine, its power, its promise. Around him, the vault bore the battle's toll. Victor Grayson lay unconscious, his wrist bruised from Elon's wrench, his pistol discarded. Pete Grayson slumped against a wall, his shotgun silent, his 70-year-old frame defeated. The 6 coalition operatives sprawled in heaps, their rifles useless husks after the engine's surge. The trapdoor above hung open, snow swirling down the shaft as the 20-mile blizzard raged outside, a howling reminder of Voss's retreat into the white. Jolie sat on the cold floor, her 85-year-old frame propped against a crate, her cane beside her like a fallen standard. Her arthritic hands trembled, clutching Joshua's $5 photograph, its edges worn from decades of quiet faith. The engine's glow bathed her, softening the lines of her face, but her dark eyes glistened with exhaustion and a fragile pride. She'd stood against Voss, swung her cane, spoken the code, stars guide home, that had turned the tide. Her $25,000 life, once invisible, had held the stars, but the effort had drained her, leaving her breathless, her heart thudding unevenly in her chest. Clara knelt beside her, her good hand gripping Jolie's shoulder, her injured arm limp in its sling. Blood seeped through the bandage from where she'd hit the concrete, and her torn coat hung in tatters, but her hazel eyes burned with a fierce tenderness. "Dia, you're a damn hero," she whispered, her voice cracking as she brushed snow from Jolie's silver curls. The Core's case lay nearby, empty now, its purpose fulfilled, and Clara's breath fogged in the chill as she fought tears, of relief, of pain, of the cost she couldn't yet name. May Musk and Evelyn Carter stood together by the engine, their hands clasped, a lifeline forged in shared loss and newfound strength. May's green eyes were red-rimmed, her cream coat streaked with dust, her blonde-gray hair tangled from the fight. She'd tackled Voss, pinned him with a widow's fury, and now she stared at the engine. Joshua's legacy, her husband's sacrifice made real. Evelyn, 78 and frail, leaned on her steel rod, her white hair wild in the starlight, her ember-like eyes tracing the machine she'd guarded for 54 years on a $200 pension. Their victory was a balm, but Voss's escape gnawed at them, a shadow on their triumph. Elon rose, wiping blood on his pants, and turned to Evelyn. "What's it capable of?" he asked, his voice low, urgent. "That pulse, it fried their weapons. What else can it do?" His mind raced, already mapping the implications. SpaceX, Tesla, the world beyond his $60 million rockets. Evelyn exhaled, her breath a white plume as she hobbled to the engine's base, her rod tapping the concrete. "Infinite energy from starlight," she said, her raspy voice reverent. Joshua's vision, harnessing the cosmos, not just satellites or solar panels, but the raw power of stars. That pulse was a fraction, a defense mechanism. Fully activated, it could power cities, end fossil fuels, dwarf your empire. She paused, her eyes meeting his. Or destroy it, if it falls to the wrong hands. May's hand tightened on Evelyn's, her voice trembling. "He died for this. A $1,000 crash to keep it from them, and now—" She trailed off, glancing at the trapdoor, where Voss had vanished with the fragment. "What did he take?" Evelyn frowned, kneeling stiffly to inspect the engine's edge, where a jagged scar marred its crystal surface, a piece torn free in the chaos. "A shard," she said, her fingers tracing the wound. "Not enough to rebuild it, but enough to tap its signal, maybe amplify it. He could use it to track us, or worse." Her gaze darkened, memories of 1971 flickering. "He's a physicist, he'll find a way." Clara's head snapped up, her voice sharp despite her pain. "Track us? You mean he's not done?" She clutched Jolie tighter, her torn coat flapping in the draft. "We just fought for our lives. Clara's bleeding, Elon's cut, and he's still out there with a piece of this thing?" Elon's jaw clenched, his hand curling into a fist. "Then we end it," he said, his tone steel. "We take it back to Palo Alto, lock it down, figure out how to neutralize that fragment. SpaceX can—" He stopped, his eyes widening as the engine's hum shifted. A low, resonant pulse that vibrated the vault, its light flaring briefly before settling. A faint signal crackled from a console on the wall, its screen flickering to life with coordinates and a timestamp, detected 3,500 miles south, SpaceX headquarters. "They've got it," Clara whispered, her breath hitching. "Lucia, she's picking it up in Palo Alto. The whole damn world might be next." Her voice rose, panic threading through it. "Governments, corporations, if they know what this is, they will." Evelyn cut in, her tone grim. "That signal's global now. It's not just Voss. Anyone with a receiver can hear it. Joshua hid it to avoid this. Chaos, war over power like this." She straightened, her rod a crutch. "We've got a choice. Unleash it and risk everything, or bury it again. Keep his silence." May's sob broke the quiet, her hands trembling as she sank to her knees beside the engine. "He gave everything for this," she said, tears streaking her face. "A $1,000 sacrifice. His life, our life. And now we're here, deciding its fate again." She looked up at Elon, her son, her voice a plea. "What do we do, Elon? What would he want?" Elon's throat tightened, his gaze shifting from the engine to his mother, then to Jolie and Clara. "He wanted a better world," he said, his voice thick. Not this, not blood and greed, but hiding it. He shook his head, the weight of his father's dream pressing on him. It's bigger than us now. It could change everything, end hunger, end wars, if we control it. Or start them, Jolie murmured, her voice soft but piercing. She rose with Clara's help, her cane tapping as she stepped toward the engine, its light reflecting in her eyes. I saw what men like Voss do with power. I scrubbed their floors, heard their whispers. This, she gestured at the engine. It's beautiful, but it's heavy, too heavy for us alone. Her hand brushed Joshua's photo in her pocket, and she felt him, his hope, his fear. Maybe it's not ours to decide. Clara's eyes welled, her voice a whisper as she leaned against Jolie. Keep it for hope, not war, she said, her $200 plea echoing in the vault. She winced, her blood-stained coat a testament to the fight, and her words hung. Fragile, earnest, a child's wish in a titan's game. I don't want to die for this, Tia, not yet. Elon crossed to her, kneeling to meet her gaze, his hand gentle on her shoulder. You won't, he promised, though his eyes betrayed the uncertainty. We'll figure it out. Together. He looked to Evelyn, then May, then Jolie, a circle of resolve forming in the starlight. But we can't stay here. Voss is out there, and that signal's live. We take it back, secure it, then decide. Evelyn nodded, her rod tapping as she hobbled to a crate, pulling out a dusty tarp. We cover it, she said, Ed. Move it to the jet. I've got a sled upstairs, used it for supplies. It'll hold. Her voice steadied, the scientist re-emerging. But we're on borrowed time. That fragment, he'll use it, and soon. May wiped her eyes, rising with a pilot's grit. Then we move, she said, her hand steadying as she grabbed the tarp's edge. For Joshua, for all of us. She glanced at the journals on the floor, their pages a testament to love and loss, and bent to gather them, her resolve hardening. Jolie took a shaky breath, her cane a lifeline as she watched them prepare. The engine's hum softened, as if listening, and she felt its burden. The cost of legacy, the price of dreams. We're not just carrying a machine, she said, her voice threading through the quiet. We're carrying him, his heart, his hope. Don't let it break us. Her words were a prayer, a warning, and the group paused, their eyes meeting hers, a silent pact forged. They worked quickly, draping the tarp over the engine, its glow dimming but not dying. Elon and Evelyn rigged the sled, a rusted relic hauled down the shaft while May and Clara secured the core's connection, ensuring it wouldn't flare again. Not yet. Jolie stood watch, her cane tapping, her mind racing with stories, of stars that fell, of homes rebuilt. The vault felt smaller now, a tomb of victory and doubt, and the blizzard's howl above urged them upward. By 4:15 p.m., they'd hauled the engine to the surface, the sled creaking under its weight as snow lashed their faces. The Gulfstream GC-350 waited a mile west, its silver hull a beacon in the white, and they trekked through the 15-degree cold, their breaths fogging, their wounds aching. Victor and Pete remained below, bound with scavenged rope, the operatives left to the frost, prisoners of their own greed. The jet's engines roared as they loaded the engine aboard, its tarp secured, its hum muffled but alive. Clara slumped into a seat, her coat blood-stained, her voice faint. We made it, she murmured, her hand finding Jolie's. May sat beside Evelyn, their hands clasped, while Elon took the controls, his bloodied arm steady on the yoke. As the jet climbed, the engine pulsed once, a signal, a heartbeat, detected 3,500 miles south at SpaceX, and likely beyond. 8 hours to midnight, and the world was waking to its call. They'd won the battle, but the war loomed. Voss's fragment, the global stakes, the choice ahead. Jolie gazed out the window, the Alaskan expanse shrinking below, and whispered, We're not done, Nino. The stars glittered, their light a burden they'd carry home, its cost etched in their scars.